It's funny, or maybe not funny at all, how a single moment can just shatter your entire world. One minute, I was laughing, a lukewarm hot dog in one hand and a rapidly melting ice cream cone in the other, at my Aunt Carol's annual 4th of July BBQ, a tradition as steadfast as the summer sun. The next, the world tilted. Liam, my ex-boyfriend of 3 years, the man who knew every scar on my heart, was down on one knee. Not for me, obviously. We'd been broken up for a torturous 6 months. He was kneeling in front of my cousin Chloe, and on her perfectly manicured finger, as he slid it on with a triumphant grin, was my mother's ring. My dead mother's emerald ring. The one she'd promised me. The one he knew was meant for me. The buzz of the party, the kids shrieking, the smell of sunscreen and grilled meat, it all just ceased. There was only the ring, glinting malevolently on Chloe's hand, and the roaring in my ears. Let me back up. Before the world ended at that stupid BBQ, there was a life. A good one, mostly. My mom, Elena, was my best friend. She was vibrant, kind, and had this incredible laugh that could fill a room. She passed away from cancer when I was 22, and it felt like the sun had been permanently dimmed. Before she died, during one of our quiet late-night talks when the morphine haze would lift just enough for her to be lucid, she'd taken off her ring. It was an emerald, her birthstone, surrounded by tiny diamonds, set in an antique gold band. It wasn't a colossal rock, but it was uniquely her. "This is for you, Sarah Bear," she'd whispered, her hand trembling as she pressed it into mine. "For when you find someone who loves you as much as your dad loved me, or hell, buy yourself. A damn house with it if you want. Just know it's yours. A piece of me." I'd cried, obviously. It became my most treasured possession, locked away safely. I wasn't ready to wear it, not yet. It felt too soon, too raw. But knowing it was there, waiting, was a comfort. Liam knew all of this. We started dating about a year after Mom died. He was charming, handsome, and seemed to understand my lingering grief. He'd listen for hours while I talked about her, looked at old photos with me, even helped me sort through some of her things when I finally felt up to it. He'd seen the ring. I'd shown it to him once, my voice thick with emotion, explaining its significance. He'd held it carefully, told me it was beautiful, just like my mom must have been. He said he understood how much it meant to me. We talked about the future, a future I stupidly assumed included him. We were serious, or so. I thought, 3 years is a long time. We lived together for the last year of it. Then, 6 months before the infamous BBQ, he ended it. It was abrupt, almost clinical. "I just don't see a future with us anymore, Sarah," he'd said, packing a bag. "I'm not happy. No big fight, no dramatic explosion, just an erosion I hadn't fully seen until he was walking out the door." I was devastated. It felt like another bereavement. I cried for weeks, leaned heavily on my friends, and yes, even on my cousin Chloe. Chloe. She's my Aunt Carol and Uncle Mark's daughter. We grew up together. More like sisters than cousins, or so I thought. She was always the prettier one, the more popular one, the one who got what she wanted. I was the quieter, more studious one. I never envied her, not really. We had different strengths. When Liam left, Chloe was there with pints of Ben & Jerry's and terrible rom-coms. She'd badmouth him with me, call him an idiot, tell me I was too good for him. "You'll find someone so much better, Sar," she'd say, hugging me. "He's a fool for letting you go." Turns out, she was already picking up where he left off with me, or maybe even before. The timeline is still sickeningly blurry. So, picture this. The BBQ, the sun is shining. My dad is manning the grill, flipping burgers with a slightly pained expression because my Aunt Carol insists on using those awful pre-made patties. I'm actually feeling okay. The 6-month mark since the breakup had passed, and while I wasn't exactly skipping through fields of daisies, the constant ache in my chest had dulled to a manageable throb. I was even thinking about tentatively dipping a toe back into the dating pool. Then Liam showed up. I was surprised to see him. Aunt Carol is a more the merrier type, but still it was a family event. He gave me a cursory nod, a tight, uncomfortable smile. I just looked away, my stomach clenching a little. And then I saw him gravitating towards Chloe. They were laughing, whispering. A weird, cold feeling started to creep up my spine. I told myself I was being paranoid. He's single, she's single, it's a party, I reasoned. Stop making everything about you. The next thing I know, someone's clinking a glass. My Uncle Mark, Chloe's dad, beaming. "Attention, everyone. Attention. Liam has something he'd like to say." And that's when it happened. Liam, looking deeply into Chloe's eyes, the same look he used to give me, started his little speech. How he'd known from the moment he met her, when, how, that she was special. How she'd brought light back into his life. My stomach was in my shoes. My dad caught my eye from across the yard, a flicker of confusion and concern on his face. Then he got down on one knee. Chloe gasped, hand flying to her mouth in that oh-so-perfectly rehearsed way. And then the ring. My mother's ring. I think I actually stopped breathing. The hot dog and ice cream slipped from my numb fingers and hit the grass with a sad splat. Everything went into slow motion. I saw the emerald, unmistakable. I saw the tiny diamonds. I saw the antique gold band. Mom had worn every day of her adult life. The world wasn't just tilted. It was upside down, spinning wildly. Chloe was crying. Yes! Yes, of course, yes! People were cheering, clapping. My Aunt Carol was ululating with joy. Uncle Mark was already popping a bottle of champagne he'd clearly had on standby. And I just stood there, frozen. Someone, I think it was my other cousin, Mark Jr., bumped into me and said, "Hey, you okay, Sarah? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I have," I managed to whisper, my voice hoarse. My gaze was locked on that ring, on Chloe's ecstatic face, on Liam's smug one as he stood up and kissed her. Then, the first coherent thought broke through the fog. How did he get it? It was locked in my jewelry box in my bedroom. My old bedroom, in the apartment he'd moved out of. The apartment I still lived in. My dad was making his way towards me, his earlier confusion now replaced with dawning horror, as he too obviously recognized the ring. He knew that ring as well as he knew his own hands. He'd bought it for her. "Sarah," he started, his voice low and urgent. But before he could say more, Chloe, spotting me, rushed over, dragging Liam by the hand. Her face was a mask of triumphant bliss. "Sarah, oh my God, can you believe it? Isn't it the most beautiful ring you've ever seen?" She thrust her hand towards my face. The emerald winked at me. My mother's emerald. I think that's when... I snapped. It wasn't loud, not a scream. It was a low, guttural sound that came from somewhere deep inside me. "That's my mother's ring," I said, my voice trembling with a rage so profound it almost choked me. Chloe's smile faltered for a microsecond. "Oh, Liam said it was a family heirloom. Isn't that romantic? It's so vintage and gorgeous." She looked adoringly at Liam. He had the audacity to look uncomfortable, but also defiant. "Well, it is a family ring, Sarah. And I wanted Chloe to have something meaningful." Meaningful? I could feel tears starting to well, hot and angry. "Liam, that ring was promised to me. My mother gave it to me before she died. How could you? And how did you even get it?" The little bubble of celebration around us had popped. People were starting to stare. Aunt Carol bustled over, her smile strained. Now, girls. What's all this commotion?" "Sarah, honey, don't spoil Chloe's big moment." "Spoil her moment?" I choked out, feeling like I was in a nightmare. "Aunt Carol, that's Mom's ring, the one she left for me." Aunt Carol's eyes flickered. To the ring, then to Liam, then back to me. A strange, calculating look crossed her face. "Oh, Sarah, I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding. Liam wouldn't... Well, it's a beautiful ring, and Chloe is so happy." She patted Chloe's arm. "Don't you worry, sweetie." Misunderstanding? My dad finally reached us, his face like thunder. "Carol, that is Elena's ring, her engagement ring, the one she specifically told Sarah she wanted her to have." Uncle Mark joined the huddle, looking flustered. "Now, David, let's not jump to conclusions. Maybe Liam bought a similar one? It's a classic design." "Similar?" I almost shrieked. "Uncle Mark, I'd know my mother's ring anywhere, we all would." I looked pointedly at Liam. "How did you get it, Liam? Did you break into my apartment? Did you still have a key?" The sick realization hit me that he probably did. We'd never formally exchanged keys back. God, I was such an idiot. Liam shifted his weight. "Sarah, can we not do this here? You're making a scene." "I'm making a scene?" My voice rose. "You stole my mother's ring, a ring she gave me on her deathbed, and gave it to my cousin, your new fiancé, 6 months after you dumped me, and I'm making a scene?" The tears were flowing freely now, hot tracks of betrayal and grief. Chloe, bless her cotton socks, decided this was the moment for peak obliviousness, or perhaps calculated cruelty. "Sarah, don't be so dramatic. It's just a ring. Liam picked it for me. He loves me. Maybe your mom would have wanted it to go to someone who was actually going to get married and be happy." That was the knife in the gut. My own cousin. The silence that fell then was thick and heavy. Even Aunt Carol looked a little shocked by Chloe's callousness, though she quickly masked it. My dad stepped forward. "Chloe, that was an incredibly cruel thing to say. And Liam," his voice was dangerously quiet, "you will explain how you came to be in possession of Elena's ring." Now, Liam looked like a cornered rat. I still had a key. I went back to get some stuff I forgot. I saw it, and I just thought, Chloe deserves something beautiful. Something with history. Something that belongs to someone else. My dad bit out. "Something priceless to Sarah?" I just stared at Chloe. Her initial flash of triumph was now mixed with a sort of petulant defensiveness. She wasn't taking the ring off. She was clutching her hand to her chest, as if I were about to physically rip it from her. "Well, I'm not giving it back," she declared, looking at Liam for support. "He gave it to me. It's mine now." Aunt Carol chimed in. "Yes, it's a gift. Sarah, I know you're upset, but you can't expect Chloe to give up her engagement ring. It's bad luck." "Bad luck." I wanted to laugh hysterically. This whole situation was beyond bad luck. It was a cursed, twisted joke. I looked from Chloe's defiant face to Liam's shifty one, to my aunt's placating yet firm expression, and finally to my dad, whose face was a mixture of fury and heartbreak on my behalf. The surrounding family members were whispering, some looking sympathetic, others clearly uncomfortable and wishing they were anywhere else. I couldn't breathe. I turned and fled, pushing past stunned onlookers, the sounds of, "Sarah, wait," fading behind me. I ran until I reached my car, fumbled for my keys, and just drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to get away from them, from the sight of that ring on her hand, from the crushing weight of their collective betrayal. The rest of that day is a blur of tears and rage. I ended up at my best friend Maya's apartment. She just held me while I sobbed, incoherent at first, until the whole sordid story came tumbling out. "They did what?" Maya kept repeating, her eyes wide with disbelief and then righteous anger. "Oh, hell no. We are going to war, Sarah." But I didn't want war. I just wanted my mom's ring, and maybe a tiny piece of my faith in humanity back. The next few days were a nightmare. My phone blew up. Texts and calls from my dad, offering support and vowing to sort it out. Texts from Aunt Carol, telling me I was overreacting and needed to apologize to Chloe for ruining her special day. Apologize. The audacity. A few placating texts from Uncle Mark, saying things like, "Family is family, and let's try to find a compromise." A compromise? What compromise was there? Chloe and Liam were silent. Utterly. Which, in a way, was the most damning thing of all. No apology, no explanation beyond Liam's pathetic admission at the BBQ. They were just proceeding as if nothing was wrong, as if it was perfectly normal to get engaged with a stolen, deeply sentimental ring. I posted on Reddit, vague at first on AIDA, asking if I was the asshole for being upset that my ex used a ring meant for me to propose to my cousin. The validation was overwhelming. Then I found a legal advice sub, and a relationship sub. The advice poured in. Some said to call the cops, report the theft. Some said to sue. Others advised cutting off all contact with that side of the family. I felt so lost. The ring wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was my last tangible connection to my mom. It was her love, her hope for my future, solidified in gold and emerald. And they had desecrated that. Chloe, with her casual cruelty, and Liam, with his calculated theft and emotional vandalism. My dad tried talking to Aunt Carol and Uncle Mark. He told me it was like talking to a brick wall. Aunt Carol was firmly in Chloe's camp, arguing that Liam gave it to her, so it was hers. She accused my dad and me of being jealous of Chloe's happiness. Jealous. Uncle Mark was more conciliatory, but ultimately useless, wringing his hands and saying he didn't want to take sides in a family dispute. Taking sides? This was theft, emotional and actual. The worst part was the whispers. Other family members, some were horrified and supportive of me. My mom's sister, my Aunt Susan, called me, absolutely livid on my behalf, and said she'd given Carol a piece of her mind. But others were less clear. I heard through the grapevine that some distant cousins thought I was being dramatic. It's just a ring. Chloe looked so happy. Sarah should just let it go and move on. It made me sick to my stomach. How could they not see how deeply wrong this was? Liam eventually unblocked me or got a new number or something enough to send a text. It wasn't an apology. It was a demand. "Sarah, you need to stop causing trouble. Chloe is really upset by all this drama you're stirring up. What's done is done. You should be happy for us." I almost threw my phone across the room. Happy for them? He had to be delusional. I just replied, "Give me back my mother's ring, Liam. It's theft. You stole it." He didn't reply. The Reddit comments were a lifeline, honestly. Strangers offering more compassion than some of my own family. Many urged me to go to the police. I hesitated. It felt like such an extreme step, involving law enforcement in a family matter. But then I'd picture that ring on Chloe's finger. Her smug little face and the rage would bubble up again. This wasn't just about a ring. It was about the principle. It was about the blatant disrespect, the cruelty. My dad was torn. He wanted the ring back for me, desperately. But he also dreaded the family schism this was causing. He'd already had a massive row with his sister Carol. Our family, which had always been relatively close-knit despite the usual minor squabbles, was fracturing. I started having trouble sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see my mom's face, then Chloe's, then the ring. I felt like I was grieving all over again. For my mom, for the relationship I thought I had with Liam, for the bond I thought I had with Chloe, for the family I thought I knew. What was I supposed to do? Let them get away with it? Let Chloe walk down the aisle wearing my mother's legacy on her finger, a symbol of her triumph over me? The thought made me physically ill. I consulted a lawyer, just for a preliminary chat based on Reddit advice. He confirmed it was technically theft, but proving intent and value for a criminal case could be tricky, and a civil suit would be costly and emotionally draining, further ripping the family apart. He suggested mediation, perhaps through a neutral family friend or a professional mediator, But how do you mediate with people who see nothing wrong with their actions? The silence from Chloe and Liam continued deafeningly. They were, apparently, happily planning their wedding, completely unbothered by the emotional wreckage they'd left in their wake. That, more than anything, solidified my resolve. This wasn't just a mistake or a misunderstanding. This was deliberate. This was malicious. Update. 2 weeks later. Okay, so it's been 2 weeks since the BBQ from hell, or as I now call it, Ringgate. Thanks for all the support in the comments, seriously. It's been a rough couple of weeks, and knowing I'm not crazy for feeling this way has helped more than you know. A lot of you have been asking for an update, so here it is. The short version. No ring, more drama, and I'm pretty sure my sanity is hanging by a thread. The long version. After my initial meltdown and escape, I spent a few days holed up. At Maya's. My dad was a rock star. He called every day, not pushing me, just checking in. He said he'd had another conversation, read screaming match, with Aunt Carol, who was now accusing me of trying to sabotage Chloe's happiness, out of jealousy because Liam chose her. The sheer audacity. Uncle Mark was apparently wringing his hands in the background, muttering about keeping the peace. Peace? What peace? They blew up the peace when they decided grand theft jewelry was an acceptable engagement gift. Several of you suggested sending a formal legal letter demanding the ring back. So I did. My lawyer drafted a polite but firm letter to Liam, CCing Chloe, stating that the ring was my property, bequeathed to me by my mother, and that he had unlawfully removed it from my apartment. It requested the immediate return of the ring to avoid further legal action. We sent it via certified mail. Cost me a couple $100 I didn't really have, but it felt like doing something. The reaction? Well, Liam ignored it. Chloe, however, did not. She posted a passive-aggressive Instagram story. It was a boomerang of her wiggling her ring finger, the emerald sparkling, with the caption, "So in love with my ring and my amazing fiancé. Some people just can't stand to see others happy. Blessed, Asher engaged, Ash haters, gonna hate." I wanted to scream. Haters? I wasn't hating. I was a victim of theft and a massive emotional gut punch. The comments on her post, it was public because of course it was, were a mixed bag before she limited them. A few oblivious friends gushing, but also a couple of our mutual cousins who knew the situation posting very pointed, interesting, choice of ring, or that ring looks familiar, comments. Chloe deleted those pretty quickly. Then Aunt Carol called me. Not my dad, me. She didn't yell, which was almost worse. She used that syrupy, disappointed voice. "Sarah, honey, I just don't understand why you're being like this. Chloe is heartbroken that you're trying to take her engagement ring away. It's a symbol of Liam's love for her. Can't you find it in your heart to be happy for your cousin?" I was calm. Too calm, maybe. Years of dealing with Chloe's subtle manipulations had taught me a thing or two. "Aunt Carol," I said, my voice even. "Liam stole that ring from me. It was my mother's. She gave it to me. It is not his to give, and it is not Chloe's to keep. It has nothing to do with being happy for her and everything to do with principle and sentiment. If Liam truly loved Chloe, he would have bought her her own ring, one untainted by theft and grief." "But it was just sitting in your jewelry box," she exclaimed, as if that justified it. "You weren't even wearing it. Chloe will cherish it." "I was waiting for the right time, or the right person," I replied, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. A person who didn't get it by stealing. The fact that it was in my jewelry box in my private home doesn't make it up for grabs. That's like saying if I leave my car unlocked, it's fine for someone to just take it for a joyride and then decide to keep it. She huffed. "You're being deliberately difficult, Sarah. And this legal letter? It's really escalated things. Your Uncle Mark is very upset. You're tearing this family apart." "No, Aunt Carol," I said firmly. "Liam and Chloe did that when they decided to commit theft and then flaunt it. I'm just trying to reclaim what is rightfully and sentimentally mine." We went around in circles for a bit longer, her trying to guilt-trip me standing my ground. Thank you, Reddit courage. It ended with her sighing dramatically and saying she hoped I'd see sense before Chloe's engagement party, which apparently they were still planning. An engagement party, the absolute unmitigated gall. My dad told me later that Uncle Mark did call him, very distressed, saying I was threatening legal action, and couldn't I just let it go for the sake of family unity? My dad, bless his heart, told him flat out, "Mark, your daughter is wearing a stolen ring that belonged to my dead wife and was meant for my daughter. The only person who needs to let it go is Chloe, by giving the ring back. Until then, Sarah has my full support to do whatever she needs to do." Uncle Mark apparently just spluttered and hung up. So, the family is definitely divided. Aunt Susan, Mom's sister, has been amazing. She called Aunt Carol and reportedly read her the riot act in a way that Mom would have been proud of. She even offered to contribute to my legal fees if it came to that. A few of my cousins on Mom's side have also reached out with support. On Dad's side, it's messier. Aunt Carol is his sister, and she's very good at playing the victim and spinning narratives. The mental toll is significant. I'm barely sleeping. I jump every time my phone rings. I had a horrible dream the other night where Mom was alive, and I had to tell her what happened to her ring. and she just looked so disappointed in me for letting it happen. I woke up sobbing. Maya has been a saint, letting me crash on her couch indefinitely and making sure I eat. My work is suffering. I'm a graphic designer, and creativity kind of needs a clear head, which I decidedly do not have. Many of you asked if Liam had a history of being sketchy. Looking back, maybe there were small red flags I ignored. He could be very charming but also quite manipulative in subtle ways, getting his own way without ever seeming demanding. He was also very image-conscious. Having a meaningful, vintage family heirloom to propose with probably appealed to his sense of grandeur. Never mind how he got it. I think he genuinely doesn't see what he did as that bad. In his mind, I wasn't using it. He wanted it, so he took it. The selfishness is astounding. And Chloe? I've replayed our entire childhood in my head. She was always a bit of a taker. The toy I loved, she'd borrow and break. The friend I made, she'd co-opt. The dress I wanted for prom, she'd buy first in a different color. I always excused it as her being a bit spoiled or insecure. I never imagined she was capable of this level of cruelty, of aligning herself with someone who would hurt me so deeply and then doubling down on it. The legal letter's deadline for a response has passed. No ring, no official reply. Just Chloe's smug social media and Aunt Carol's guilt trips. My lawyer said the next step is filing a civil suit for replevin, return of property, and possibly conversion for the wrongful taking. It means serving them officially, court dates, the whole 9 yards. Part of me wants to do it, to see this through, to make them face consequences. Another part of me is just so tired. I feel like I'm 100 years old. They are planning an engagement party for the end of next month at Aunt Carol and Uncle Mark's house. I am obviously not invited, but the thought of them celebrating with my mother's ring as the centerpiece of their joyous occasion makes bile rise in my throat. What now? I don't know. I really don't. Some of you said just cut them, all off and move on. It's tempting, so tempting. But the ring? It's not just an object. It's Mom. And I feel like I'm failing her by not getting it back. Thanks for listening, Reddit. I'll keep you posted. Any advice on how to deal with the upcoming engagement party, that I'm not going to, but will be very aware of, would be appreciated. How do I not let it consume me? Update. 1 month later. The engagement party aftermath. Hey everyone. It's me again. Wow. Just wow. The last month has been a roller coaster I desperately want to get off. Thanks for all the messages after my last update. Your support, advice, and even just virtual hugs have meant the world. A special shout out to the Redditors who shared similar stories of family betrayal. It doesn't make it better, but it makes me feel less alone in this specific brand of crazy. So, the engagement party. It happened last Saturday. As predicted, I wasn't invited, which was a relief. The thought of being in the same room as them, watching Chloe flaunt my mother's ring and everyone pretending it was fine, would have probably sent me over the edge. My dad didn't go either. He told Aunt Carol that as long as Chloe was wearing stolen property that belonged to his deceased wife and was meant for me, he wouldn't be celebrating anything with their side of the family. This, predictably, caused another meltdown from Aunt Carol, accusing him of choosing sides, the side of basic morality, and ruining family relationships. Uncle Mark apparently just sighed a lot. Aunt Susan, Mom's sister, also declined, sending a very curt RSVP that basically said, not until Elena's ring is returned to her daughter. Bless that woman. A few other cousins on Mom's side also boycotted. So it wasn't quite the united, joyous family gathering Chloe and Aunt Carol probably envisioned. The day of the party, I was a wreck. Maya tried to distract me. We went for a hike, got pizza, watched stupid movies, but it was always there, simmering in the back of my mind. What were they doing? What were they saying? Was Chloe showing off the ring to everyone, spinning some tale about how Liam presented her with this precious family heirloom? The thought made my skin crawl. Then, Sunday morning, the photos started appearing on social media. Chloe, of course, posted a novel-length caption about her fairy tale engagement party and how blessed she was, with a carousel of professionally shot, of course, pictures. And there it was, in nearly every shot where her left hand was visible. My mother's ring, sparkling, obscene on her finger, Liam looking smug, Aunt Carol and Uncle Mark beaming proudly. It was like a punch to the gut all over again. But here's where things took a bit of an unexpected turn. One of the photos Chloe posted was a big group shot of the happy family. And because Chloe isn't the brightest bulb when it comes to social media privacy, her guest list was pretty wide. A few of my mom's old friends, people who knew her well and knew that ring intimately, saw the posts. One of them, Mrs. Henderson, who was basically like a second mother to me growing up, called me. She was aghast. Sarah, dear, I saw Chloe's pictures. Is that Elena's ring she's wearing? I confirmed it was, and told her the short, painful version of the story. Mrs. Henderson was furious. She's a sweet, gentle lady, usually, but I heard a steely edge in her voice I'd never heard before. She said, "This is an outrage. Elena would be spinning in her grave. That ring was yours. Apparently, Mrs. Henderson and a couple of Mom's other close friends then started making calls. They called Aunt Carol. They called Uncle Mark. They didn't yell. They just expressed their profound disappointment and, frankly, disgust at the situation. They talked about Elena, about her wishes, about how that ring symbolized her love. They didn't accuse. They just shamed. Quietly, dignifiedly, but powerfully. According to my dad, who got a very tearful, very angry call from Aunt Carol later that day, these calls rattled her. Aunt Carol can handle family drama. She thrives on it. She can dismiss me as jealous, and my dad as overprotective. But being called out by her deceased sister's respected lifelong friends, that hit a nerve. It made her look bad to people whose opinions, for whatever reason, she actually cared about. Uncle Mark, too, was apparently deeply uncomfortable, with the situation now being aired to people outside the immediate and easily manipulated in his mind family circle. It didn't result in the ring being immediately returned, unfortunately. But it did change the dynamic. The united front of Sarah's just being dramatic started to crumble a little around the edges. In other news, Liam finally responded to the legal letter. Not directly, but through a lawyer Chloe's parents are now paying for. His lawyer's response was infuriatingly dismissive. It basically said that Liam considered the ring abandoned property, since it was in a jewelry box in an apartment he once shared with me. Absolute BS. It was my current home, he was the one who left, and that he gifted it to Chloe in good faith, and she accepted it in good faith. Therefore, it was hers. They rejected my claim and considered the matter closed. They also subtly threatened me with a countersuit for harassment if I continued to bother them. Harassment! For asking for my own stolen property back. My lawyer said their argument about abandoned property was laughably weak and wouldn't hold up, but it showed they were going to fight this. So, the next step is officially filing the civil suit. I signed the papers last week. It felt heavy, but also a little bit like I was taking back some control. The estimated legal costs are terrifying, but Aunt Susan has offered to help, and Dad said he'd chip in. Even Mrs. Henderson and some of Mom's other friends have quietly offered to contribute to a Justice for Elena's Ring Fund, which made me cry for a whole different reason. The kindness of some people in the face of such ugliness is really something. Chloe and Liam are, from what I can gather via the family grapevine, which is now a very tangled and unreliable thing, proceeding with wedding plans. Apparently they're aiming for a spring wedding. The thought of her walking down the aisle with that ring, I still can't stomach it. Mentally, I'm up and down. Some days I feel strong and determined. Other days I just want to curl up in a ball and make the world go away. I started seeing a therapist, which many of you suggested. It's helping, slowly. She's helping me process the grief and betrayal, and to understand that their actions are a reflection of them, not of me or my worth. An interesting little tidbit. Maya, my best friend, ran into one of Liam's old college buddies a few days ago. This guy apparently never liked Liam much, thought he was a user. He told Maya that Liam has a history of being a bit of a leech and a social climber, always looking for an angle. He also mentioned that Liam had apparently been complaining to some mutual acquaintances about being broke right before he proposed to Chloe, and was relieved he didn't have to buy an expensive ring because he found one. Found one. Like it was a shiny pebble on the beach. The callousness is breathtaking. So, that's where we are. Legal battle initiated. Family still fractured. Chloe and Liam still blissfully, or perhaps not so blissfully, now that Mom's friends have weighed in, ignorant and entitled. And me? I'm tired. But I'm not giving up. Not yet. That ring means too much. Mom meant too much. Thanks again for everything, Reddit. I feel like you guys are my invisible army. I'll update when there's more to tell, though I suspect the legal stuff will be slow. Wish me luck. And maybe send some good vibes into the universe that common sense and decency will somehow prevail. Update. 6 months later. The resolution, sort of. Hello again, Reddit. It's been a long 6 months since my last update, and honestly, a lifetime since this whole nightmare began. So much has happened, and I figured you all deserve to know how things, mostly, shook out. Grab some popcorn, because it's been a ride. After I filed the civil suit, things got quiet, then weird, then surprisingly, somewhat resolved. Liam and Chloe, through their lawyer, initially dug in their heels. They filed a response denying everything, reiterating their abandoned property nonsense, and accusing me of harassment. It was frustrating and expensive, with lawyer fees piling up on both sides. My lawyer was confident we had a strong case, but warned me that civil suits can drag on for ages and there are no guarantees. The family situation remained tense. My dad and Aunt Susan were my unwavering pillars of support. Aunt Carol and Uncle Mark, however, doubled down on defending Chloe. They were apparently funding Liam and Chloe's legal defense, which just added another layer of insult to injury. They portrayed me to anyone who would listen as bitter, vindictive, and trying to destroy Chloe's happiness. The wedding plans were apparently still full steam ahead, though I heard through the grapevine, shout out to the cousins who were secretly on my side and feeding me intel, that the guest list was looking a bit sparse due to the ring controversy. Mom's Friends, led by the formidable Mrs. Henderson, continued their quiet campaign. They didn't engage in online drama, but they made their disapproval known in polite, firm ways. They'd run into Aunt Carol at the grocery store or community events and express their sadness at the situation, always bringing it back to Elena and her memory. It was like a death by 1,000 paper cuts for Aunt Carol's social standing. And apparently, it was effective. The first crack appeared about 3 months ago. I got a call from my lawyer. Liam and Chloe's lawyer had reached out, proposing mediation. My lawyer was surprised. They'd been so aggressive up to that point. He suspected they were either feeling the financial pinch of the legal fees, or someone had advised them their case was weaker than they thought. Or maybe, just maybe, Aunt Carol was starting to feel the heat from Mom's friends and the wider community. I agreed to mediation. I wasn't optimistic, but it was a step. The mediation session was surreal. It was me, my lawyer, Liam, Chloe, and their lawyer, all in a sterile conference room with a neutral mediator. Liam looked sullen and avoided eye contact. Chloe looked like she'd rather be anywhere else, alternating between defiance and looking like she was about to cry. She was wearing the ring. Seeing it again so close made my blood boil, but I kept my composure. The mediator was good. He let everyone have their say, or, in Liam and Chloe's case, let their lawyer do most of the talking. Their lawyer stuck to the gift narrative. My lawyer calmly laid out the facts of ownership, the sentimental value, and the clear evidence of theft. Liam still having a key, the timing, his admission at the BBQ. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just looked directly at Chloe, then at Liam. I talked about my mom. I talked about what the ring meant, not in monetary terms, but emotionally. I talked about the promise she made to me. I asked Chloe how she could wear something that carried so much pain for someone else, someone who was supposed to be her family. I asked Liam how he could betray 3 years of a relationship and my trust so callously. Chloe actually did start crying then. Quiet, sniffly tears. Liam just stared at the table. For the first time, I saw a flicker of something in Chloe. Not remorse, maybe, but discomfort? Shame? It was hard to tell. The mediation went on for hours. Their initial offer was insulting. I dropped the lawsuit and they didn't offer anything, just that they'd stop being harassed. My lawyer scoffed. We countered, return the ring, and I dropped the suit, and we all walk away. They refused. The mediator went back and forth between rooms. Finally, late in the afternoon, a new offer came. They would consider returning the ring if I paid them for the emotional distress my lawsuit had caused Chloe and for the cost of a new engagement ring for her. I almost laughed out loud. Pay them? For my ring? My lawyer politely told them that was not going to happen. We were at an impasse. I was ready to walk and proceed with the court case. Then, as we were packing up, the mediator came back one last time. They have a final offer, he said. Mrs. Sarah's last name drops the lawsuit. Mr. Liam's last name and Ms. Chloe's last name will return the ring. No money exchanges hands. Everyone pays their own legal fees. And they want a confidentiality clause. You agree not to discuss the terms of this settlement or disparage them publicly. I looked at my lawyer. He raised an eyebrow. It wasn't perfect. The confidentiality clause irked me. Though, hey, Reddit is anonymous, right? They wouldn't be admitting guilt. They wouldn't be apologizing. But I'd get the ring back. My mom's ring. What about an apology? I asked, even though I knew the answer. The mediator sighed. That's not on the table, I'm afraid. I thought about it. The legal fees were already substantial. A court case could take another year. More money, more stress, and even if I won, collecting could be another battle. And all that time, Chloe would have the ring. Here was a chance to get it back now. Okay, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Okay, I agree. The agreement was drafted and signed. Chloe literally took the ring off her finger right there, in the conference room, and handed it to her lawyer, who handed it to the mediator, who handed it to my lawyer, who handed it to me. My hand was shaking as I took it. It felt warm from her skin, which was a bit gross, but it was there. It was 8, my mom's ring. I slipped it into my pocket, a heavy, precious weight. I didn't look at Chloe or Liam again. Walking out of that building, I felt numb. Then, sitting in my lawyer's office a few minutes later, holding the ring properly in my hand, I burst into tears. Relief, exhaustion, anger, sadness, it all came pouring out. My lawyer, bless him, just handed me a box of tissues and pretended to look at some papers until I composed myself. So I have the ring. It's currently at a jeweler's being professionally cleaned and checked over. I haven't decided when or if I'll wear it yet. Just knowing it's safe, it's mine, is enough for now. What about Chloe and Liam? Well, the wedding is apparently postponed indefinitely. I heard through Aunt Susan, who heard from a more sympathetic cousin, that the whole ordeal, particularly the mediation and the realization that they might actually lose in court and face public exposure of their actions, put a massive strain on their relationship. Chloe was apparently horrified at the prospect of being cross-examined about the theft. Liam was apparently furious that he'd have to buy another ring if they lost this one. Charming. Aunt Carol and Uncle Mark are reportedly very subdued. Aunt Carol is apparently complaining to anyone who'll listen that Ina bullied them into returning the ring and ruined Chloe's happiness. Some people actually believe her, I'm sure, but many don't. Mom's friends made sure of that. My dad is just relieved. He and Aunt Carol are not speaking, and honestly, I don't see that changing anytime soon. Our side of the family, Dad, me, Aunt Susan, and supportive cousins, had a small get-together last weekend. It was quiet, but nice, like a weight had been lifted. As for me, I'm healing. Therapy is ongoing. The anger is still there, but it's less raw. The betrayal still stings, but it doesn't consume me anymore. I learned a lot about myself, about resilience, and about who my true family and friends are. I also learned that sometimes, even when you're in the right, justice is messy, unsatisfying, and expensive. The confidentiality clause means I can't go shouting this from the rooftops with names attached. But I wanted to tell you guys, my anonymous Reddit support system. You helped me find my voice and my courage when I felt like I had none. You validated my pain and outrage, so thank you. From the bottom of my heart. I don't know what the future holds for Chloe and Liam. Frankly, I don't much care anymore. I hope they get the karma they deserve, but I'm not going to waste any more of my energy wishing for it. My focus now is on rebuilding my own peace, cherishing my mom's memory and her ring, and moving forward. Maybe one day I'll even feel ready to wear it. Thanks for everything, Reddit. You guys are the best. This is F, signing off from Ringgate. Peace out.